Okay, now a few of you have asked me how to create a form where we have parallel sided faces on two components in your mouse. In other words, where that happens is typically where the buttons of the mouse are. Underneath those buttons there's often another surface. So I'm going to show you how to do that. This is one way of doing it, of course, but this is an easy way. And as this applies to a lot of you, I figured I'd probably better off if I put it down as a recording rather than showing you it all individually. So here we go. This is a mouse example that I've got. So I've already got this into two solid bodies. There's a top and a bottom. So what I'm just going to do is just hide the bottom, because the only part this applies to is the top part. I've already got a sketch here, and this sketch is what I'm going to use to cut out the shape that I want for my buttons. Okay, so I'm going to use this sketch. I'm going to use a fairly simple cut extrude, using a thin feature cut extrude as opposed to the split feature command. And the reason why I'm going to do that is that a thin feature cut gives me a bit of gap between the buttons and the base, and that's fairly important because those things aren't going to fit exactly neatly. So either way it's fine, but that's what I've selected to do. So using a cut extrude, selecting the thin feature command, I'm going to use the mid-plane cut. Not that it really matters. I'm going to have a gap of 0.5 of a millimeter. So I'm just going to cut through all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because if I do a cut all, it will cut through both the bodies. That's the top and the bottom bodies. I actually don't want that. What I want to do is just select the top body. So I'm going to go to selected bodies, and I'm going to select the top body and hit OK. And so bodies to keep, I want to keep all those bodies. Yep, that's fine. So now I end up with the buttons cut out of the top. Now, but as you can see, that goes all the way through, and there's nothing supporting the buttons underneath. And what we're going to do is create a conformal surface underneath those buttons to support it. And as you see on the feature manager tree, we now have three solid bodies. The top has now become these two cuts. I'm just going to change the color of one of those bodies just to make it easier to identify it. Okay, so now the buttons are orange. So to build the wall on the blue part, I'm going to select a plane here underneath the part and create a sketch on that plane. Now this feature needs to be just slightly bigger than the outside shape of the buttons. So I'm going to reuse this sketch. So I'm going to select this sketch here that created the buttons, and I'm just going to go offset entities, and I'm going to make that 2 millimeters bigger than the buttons so that it overlaps a little bit. So just make sure that when you reverse it, it's actually bigger and not smaller. Hit OK. And then I'm going to use that to create a boss extrude, and that boss extrude is going to go up to the surface. So I'm going to select, you can either select this surface here or select the surface on the inside of the thing. It doesn't really matter. You might find that yours will only work one way around. Hit OK, and what we've now got is this boss which goes up to this surface. But what it's done is it's joined the two bodies together because it's formed a bridge between those two bodies. So we don't want to do that. What we want it to do is to only apply to the surround part and not the buttons. So I'll go back and edit that feature, and if you go down to the feature scope, what it's done is it's selected both those bodies. We actually don't want it to be, so now this is where I should have named the bodies because it makes it easier. We actually want to have just the cut extrude thin, so we just want to have it attached to this part here, and hit OK. and I've selected the wrong thing. So this is where naming solid bodies is very important. So I'll just go back and edit that again. So I don't want that solid body, I do want this solid body. Now that's correct. So now you can see that it's just created a solid body with that blue part. I'll just show you a section view and show you what that looks like now. And as you can see, that we've got this big solid chunk here which we'll need to remove, but we do have the buttons as a nice thin feature with a wall underneath them. Okay, so to remove this material, we'll just need to select that face, create a sketch just using convert entities on that face, and then do a cut extrude. And the easiest way of doing this is to do an offset from surface cut extrude, and we're going to select this surface, which is the top face of the buttons. Now we want to have that offset by 4 millimeters because there's 2 millimeters wall thickness on the buttons and a 2 millimeter wall thickness on the blue part. So make that 4, and you see it's cut. I'll probably have to show you as a section view. As you can see, the section view now is that orange part, which is the buttons of our mouse, now has a conformal surface underneath it to support the buttons. Now typically the front part of this will have to be cut away to allow some flex in the buttons, but that's pretty easy to do with a simple cut extrude. So there you have it, simple as that.